Today I'm going to show you how to replace Casablanca Ceiling Fan Bearings. And this video was requested by Alan because he wanted me to show him how easy it was to replace Casablanca bearings. And today I'm replacing the bearings on my Casablanca Montclair Gallery Glossy Black and Brass. So it's different for every area of Casablancas. So this one will cover the around 1986 to 2013 about, and there's a different procedure for the earlier ones and a different procedure for K63 fans. So this will be covering fans from 1986 to 2013. So these are the parts you need. You do not need that many pliers, but it's always handy. So right there, that is a tiny needle nose plier, and there is another one for different uses, but you can use one. But you do need a needle nose plier. A big plier is optional, but it's pretty handy. A hammer, the bigger the better, the more heavy. Mine is a pretty light one, but it still works. But if you go lighter than 11 ounces, it's not really going to work. So that is a 1x6 black steel tube. You can get an Ace or pretty much any hardware store sells them. You need that to punch out, punch in the bearings when you take apart the motor. And you'll need all of those sockets. And the back one is a 3x8 drill socket, and that is, I think, a socket adapter. That is a 1/4. This part is only required for fans made after 1993. Okay. So you do not need this. This part is only required for fans made from 1993 to 1996. And this part is to put your bearing puller on, which is right here, and then you don't need this many, but you only need the 1/8, which is here. You only need that one. 2 bearings. For K55 fans and XLP, you need 2 6205ZZ bearings. If you have a Samsung or Astrasan, you need 6005ZZ bearings. You can get them at Fastenal. I will link the products in the description. And this video is not sponsored, but Fastenal does sell some pretty high quality bearings. 2 screwdrivers, depending on year, you probably need 2. A flathead and a Phillips. Sometimes you need a wire stripper, not always, but sometimes. And for earlier fans, you may need this to take off the down rod, because sometimes it gets stuck. A knife also comes in pretty handy. If you have a fan from 1980 K55 all the way to sometime in 1986, and you want to replace bearings, do not use this video. Some steps are the same, such as replacing the flywheel and like that, but getting into the bearings, that is different, because they use glue to glue the bearings in, and in the later ones they just put the bearings in. So the later ones are much easier to change. I can change them in around 30 minutes. To see if this video will help you change bearings, you can use this chart to find out your fan's date. The date is usually located on the switch housing, but it's sometimes on top of the motor housing. And if it's on top of the motor housing, it means that it's after 1986. But you just need a year. Okay, now it's time to actually change the bearings. So take your fan down from the ceiling. If you don't know how to do that, watch a video on YouTube. There's a Far Red Panama on YouTube that shows it. And this fan is a Casablanca Montclair, and it's from 1996. So it works. These fans are not that easy. The easiest ones are the ones from 1987 to around 1992. Those are super easy. These ones are a bit harder, but it's the same, except the switch housing is much harder to punch out. And this video applies to IntelliTouch and ComfortTouch. 3-speed fans is about the same, except that you have to remove the board. And I wouldn't really cut the wires. So here is a scrap Hermosa motor I have. You can see at the corner. Let me move them on clear so you can see. With these plugs, it's the same thing with 3-speed fans. Just unplug like this. Just take it out. It's easy. So it's about the same. It's about the same procedure. So here's this motor. First of all, you need to take the switch cap off or the light kit, and then you have to take the wire nuts off. The wires, I've already did that. And second, it is time to remove the motor, the down rod. So get your screwdriver with a 5/16 socket, then 3 screws down. On the rotor fans, you may need this part because the screws are glued in. But on these fans, it's very easy. 3 screws and you're done. You may first have to remove the longer down rod, but it usually isn't necessary unless it's like an 8-feet down rod, which I don't think they even made. So now you see 2 wires. Grab these wires. Do not get them mixed up. I usually just use 1 wire nut, twist them together like this, put it on. So now you know it's the light leads and not the power leads. Okay, now it's time to remove the motor housing here. So use your 5/16 bit to remove it. It's the same one as the down rod. Don't lose these screws. These screws are very important. Sometimes they like to fall off, so be a bit cautious. That screw fall off. So now that's off. You can take, I usually do not do this, but I forgot since I'm making a video, that you take the bottom plate off first. So now I'm going to do that. It doesn't really matter which step you take, but it's easier to take the bottom plate off, which I forgot to do. Three screws on this fan. Sometimes there may even be 7, I think, on the Delta 2. Just take them off. There are acorn nuts on some, but for this fan, it's just 3. It's easy. See, it fell apart. That's why you take the bottom plate off first, which I forgot to do, but it's fine. Here's this. Set it aside. I usually just keep the screws inside the plate. So now you have your motor with your board. So if you forgot which leads are which, I have 2 service manuals. These are the power leads, the graph for IntelliTouch fans. Look at it. And this shows power leads for ComfortTouch fans. And AdvanTouch is also pretty similar. So now you have you see this? Now you take the board off. Always first take the BFR strip off. It's the orange band. It's here. Older fans, it's over here somewhere, and it's a big white cable thingy. There we go. And now take this off. Sometimes you need to use a flathead screwdriver, and sometimes you may actually break the plastic tab, but it's fine. See, it broke. But it doesn't matter at all. So now, you see, there are 2 screws on the side. Take off the board using these 2 screws. 1. Don't lose these screws either. 2. Now, just take the board off. Sometimes it may be a bit stuck, but you can just pull it off. If your board is dead, now is the time to replace the board. And now here you have the motor. So now you're here to the motor. You flip it like this, and you see the clip and the shaft. So get your flathead screwdriver. Sometimes it's a bit hard, sometimes it's easy. It's the easiest on 1989 fans from what I've seen. And it's hardest on this fan because it's from 1996. So you may need to use your hammer. Let me see if I can get it in frame. So here's the hammer. Put that on the screwdriver, and it probably will bend it, but it's fine. And it may scratch it, but it's under the down rod, so who cares? See, it's really hard on these fans. It flew into my fans. So now it's off. And don't lose this, you can still use it if it's bent. Get your bit to punch out the shaft. Mine's a 3/8, but just use one that's similar in size to the shaft, or else it'll either go in the shaft, which is not good. Nolan has done that mistake once, which is not good at all. Or it'll flatten the shaft, which is also not good. So get one similar size. And now, I usually just do this. I wouldn't really lay the fan on its BFR because it's pretty fragile. So lay it on the side where there's no BFR and then punch it out. And like this. You can also put it on something, but it usually works for me like this. This fan is a bit harder because it's 1996. This should take about 3 to 5 minutes, or 1 to 2. If it's a 1989 fan, it should take seconds. Sometimes it's a bit hard like this. See, now it's off. And this fan is, like I said, it's one of the harder fans to take the downward off because there's some teeth inside there. But this one worked pretty good. So now it's off. You don't need this anymore, but don't lose it. It's very helpful. So now you're at the bear motor. So you're now at the bear motor, and you need to grab your Allen wrench, or Allen key, I'm not sure what it's called. Most of the time it's 1/8, but sometimes it's different because Casablanca. To take off the flywheel. This flywheel I'm actually going to replace because it's very warped. And just grab it like this and then take it off. Sometimes it's a bit hard, but you will get it. Like this one is harder than usual, but still works. Probably gonna need to do this off camera. Now it's off. This fan was actually pretty hard to get off because there was halogen light on this and it just won't come off. So I used a really big socket to put it here, then tap on like this so your fingers won't hurt. So and it popped off good. Took me about 30 seconds. Here's the flywheel. This one's pretty much trash because it's so warped. So now you're at a motor. This is a 1996 fan, so the screws that hold the motor are for these. These are, I think, 1/4. But for older fans, they use a regular flathead screwdriver, which is really easy to take off. The newer fans, the XLP ones, use a Phillips. So these ones are one of the harder ones because they use these socket heads. Gonna wipe the dust off first because I like my fans clean. Gonna switch sockets from the 5/16 to the 1/4. They're usually really tight, so be careful to not strip the ones on the XLP ones because Phillips is easier to strip. This one is especially hard, but it still comes off. If you do this with one of these, it's not possible because it's just so stiff. And once it comes loose, I usually flip the motor. Be careful with the BFR since it's really fragile. And get my small pliers then to do this, so it's easier. Don't lose these screws either. There we go. First one done. Second one. Done. Third one and fourth one I'm not going to show since it takes a long time. Okay, right now all of the 4 screws are taking off. You can see over here there's 3. Here's the last one. So now you have to take the motor apart. So use the side without the BFR because if you break the BFR, then the fan won't work on speeds 1 to 5. So now get your flathead screwdriver. It at least has to be this big. So if it's too small, it won't work because usually just pick a groove out of the motor, get your hammer, then do this. Usually takes a couple tries. Can see the motors opening. If someone can help you hold it, it's better, but this also works. It just bounces around. And it's almost off. I can now go to the side like this. Hopefully you can still see it. And now it's off because you can see a small crack and now it spins. Take this off, it just slips right off. So this sometimes when you stick, just push it out. This one doesn't really want to push it out, so I'm going to hammer it. There we go. It's out. So now you have the rotor assembly. Once you are to this step, get 2 tape rolls. Yeah, tape. So place it down like this. The 2 layers is often better than 1. Place it down, and then place this on top. You can see tape usually works because the cardboard is pretty sturdy. But now get your bearing puller. Get this bearing puller at AutoZone. I will link the product in the description. It works very, very well. Sometimes the screws come loose and it just falls apart. As you can see here, I lost one. But that's about the only issue I have with it. So now, get a big bit like this that goes over the shaft. And then get your adapter thingy. Not sure what it's called. I just found it in my toolbox. This one is too small. You need to get a bigger one. I just grabbed one out of my toolbox, so I'm trying right now too. This one's bigger. Will it fit? Nope. Just grab a big one. This one fits. And it fits over too. So now, grab our bearing puller. Probably gonna zoom out. Twist it this way so it goes up, so you can put the middle here into there. This part gets pretty messy because there's oil and grease. This is usually the only hard part because you need to line it up. Just make sure the metal rod goes inside the adapter. Sometimes you need to move it like I am doing right now. Line the sockets up in the middle. You do not want it going on the bearing. So is it on? Let's see. It's slightly off center, so I'm going to do it again. Yep. Can see. Hopefully it focuses. Maybe not, but it's good. This is a 5/8. So you can just use this one. And now you just need a tool to let this such as a bit like this. This one's too big. A bit like this. And grab this tool. If you don't have it, you can also use this. It also works. I've used it. But this is the easiest, or anything that you can put on. Put it in and then turn it to the right side. Yeah. Just this side. Pretty sure it's the right. And now the bearing is coming off. Yay! The bearing came off. So now you flip it over. There's a side that I just did, and do the same thing. Get your... This side is usually a bit harder because you can see it's longer. Put it in. It's the same steps. You need to see, I have a missing screw on it, so my bearing puller fell apart, but it's easy to put back on. Just insert the screw through. turn to the left to make it go up. This one doesn't have to be as high as the other one because the shaft is longer on this one. Almost there. Yep, we're pretty good now. Now tighten it up to the right side. Let's see if it's centered. Yep. Yep. And yep. So now, do the same thing. This one just takes longer. Sometimes it's a bit hard to spin it, but on this Montclair it's actually pretty easy than most. I had a Venus where I just cannot get the bearing off, but this one is actually pretty easy. Just spin it. To me, taking the bearings off is very satisfying for some reason. It's coming off because it's getting easier to spin. There we go. There's the second bearing. You can see it's very stiff. Very stiff. These bearings are now trash. And you get your new bearings, which is over here. So here I have my new bearing. I'm going to put on the top one first because it's just easier to do. Grab your 1x6 steel pipe, and then grab your hammer, and just hammer it on. You can also use a press. That's really easy, but I don't have one. It's almost on. Almost. Is it on? You can tell by seeing the bottom color, is it lined up? And yes, it is. And now the top one. This time I'm going to show you how I open the bearings. They have tape, so you use your knife. It's really handy. Open the package. You probably know how to do this. Punch a hole in the middle. Grab your bearing out, put it on, then punch it on. This one takes a lot longer because the shaft is really long. Your whole house can probably hear this noise because it's so loud. It's almost in there. Yep. You have now installed the bearings. Congratulations. Your new bearings are installed, but now it's time to put the bearings back in the fan. So grab a motor. This motor I've already cleaned. It's pretty clean. So, but if I'm doing an eBay fan, I usually clean it up completely. But this fan I'm keeping. So you see this. Do not lose this. Put it back in here. This part, if it fell off, search for it. You do not want to lose this. I do this all the time. So put it inside. Top bearing goes down there. See, it spins freely. And then I'll put the motor back together. Now it's time to put the motor back together. Grab the top plate if you cleaned it and punched out the bottom plate. Just put it back on too. It's easy. The holes are here. Do the middle ones for the sides. Line them up with these. Put it on. It'll spin. Then press it down. It'll press down very easily. Grab your screws. I usually do all 4 of them at a time. It just goes through the fan. And now what I like to do is grab a hammer. Hammer these down first. This flew off. Put it back on. Now just tighten it. Get your well, what is it called again? It's that socket wrench. Where did I put it? Here it is. It was under me. It's the same procedures as putting on. You can hold it this time until you get the bottom. Until you get to the bottom. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah. And it's the same for all 4 screws. As you can see, now I have 4 screws in. Grab your handy knife. I'm actually using a new flywheel today. Got it from Reassembling Lighting. These new Casablanca flywheels are getting much harder to find now. And I'm purchasing them for $45 at Reassembling Lighting, which is pretty expensive for a flywheel, but these are new. Very good flywheels. These ones will last like 50 years. The ones from 1989, those are trash. And they give you new spring clips, so I'm going to use these. And it also gives you a new this thing for the flywheel. I'm going to put it in. These new ones are actually the wrong size for. It's not 1/8, it's something metric. So I'm going to actually use the old one. Just take it out. These older ones are just 1/8. The new ones are metric, which I do not have. Just put it back in. Put our motor down. Do you see these 2 grooves? For a Victorian fan, you put it on the down groove and put your flywheel upside down like this. And it's the same for the Venus, New Orleans, and some of the other fans. But for Panama, Delta 2, Montclair, put it on the top hole. There's a line here that you have to line up. It's usually about there. That's good. And get your big pliers and tighten it down. See if you can pull it off. Nope. It's good. Flywheel is now installed. Get your shaft. Put it in. Punch it through the bottom. Get your hammer. just do this. It'll ruin that part, but who cares? It's good. Yep. Shaft is back in. Go to our spring clip. You can use your old one or your new one. I'm going to use the new one because I have two new ones right here. Get a similar size socket that's bigger. And this one's a bit too small. Let me find a bigger one. Alright, I found it. Here's a big one. Put it there. Just hammer it down. As you can see, it's really easy that way. I learned this trick on my own. So now, your shaft is good. And now, I usually put the board in right now. Here's my board. This side goes over here. It's always like this. Put 2 screws in. Hopefully you didn't lose them. Phillips head. These are always Phillips head. Don't tighten them down all the way at first because they need some room to work. Tighten the second one down. That one's tightened. Untighten this one a bit. Move it over a bit. And now your board is in. Plug this in first. And then this. And then the BFR, if you can see. Your board is in, your flywheel is in, your bearings are in. Now that's a good install. So now put the switch housing wire down the shaft. For IT fans, look at this chart. If you lost the wire, you can tell by which wire is which by looking at the colors. Mine is the bottom ones are light. I'm pulling on this and this wire is moving, so I'm correct. I did not mix them up. So undo the wire nut, put them down. The wire is now there. There we go. And now you put the top motor housing back on. It's different for every fan, but this fan is Montclair. The easiest are probably San Marino's, actually. Hardest are Meridians. Those I hate. I usually put these tabs down first. These ones are a bit rusty for some reason, because this fan was installed in the office. Get your screwdriver, switch back to the 5/16, and then put the screws on. Okay, I've got the motor housing on. The marquee fan, I mean the Montclair is the same fan basically. These motor housings are so hard to put on. Like, the motor housing, my time that took to put this motor housing on probably took as long as me putting the bearings in. That's how hard these are. It's the same with the Casablanca Meridian. It's mostly because of the stupid sideband. Well, but I finally got it on, and it's pretty smooth. It looks pretty good. So now it's time to put back on the down rod. Get your down rod. Sometimes, usually, for these hang true 2 fans, that's what this type of down rod is called. You need to get your Allen wrench. Allen wrench, there's a hole at the ball here. Undo it so the ball can slide down. Take this out and then put the wires in, because it's just easier, and it's usually it's usually faster too. The wires, put this part back in. You usually want the wires to go on both sides, so I'm going to do that right now. Black wire is in the way, but now the collar is through. Tighten the set screw down with the Allen wrench. And now put the down rod back on using the 3 screws that you did not lose. I usually put them on with hands first. 1, 2, 3. Get your 5/16 wrench. Tighten down. Don't over tighten. It won't hurt anything, but just don't. And we're done. See? It's silent now. The flywheel is also balanced. This flywheel is now garbage. And bearings are also garbage. Maybe you can recycle these, I'm not sure. But we're done. Thanks for watching. Bye.